Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hey guys, welcome to episode 12. Today we are talking about the power of being boring. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but I think this is something that we really need to talk about, and maybe it's something you've thought about or maybe not. But I think in a world of false promises and quick fixes, this topic is something we really need to acknowledge and realize that sometimes being boring can actually be the secret to our happiness. If you have not listened to episode 9, where I lay out the 4 essential routines for healthy habits, I definitely recommend going there now and then coming back to listen to this episode, or going and listening to that as soon as you finish this episode. Like I said, this is going to be a really quick episode, and hopefully it can enhance some of your thoughts and maybe help you take action on the things we discussed in episode 9. This can really make that concept of those 4 essential habits and routines come through for you and kind of make you understand why it works. So in episode 9, I talked about decision fatigue, and that's where you get so exhausted from making decisions that you get fatigued and you just revert back to old decisions, the habits that come easier for you. So whether that is something like, choosing to go through the fast food drive-through and ordering a really, greasy burger and fries rather than ordering a salad, because that's just what you used to do. And it feels like a really hard decision to make the new decision. That's what decision fatigue can be. And especially when we're making change, when we are faced with those constant moment-to-moment choices. And it's normally with food more so than fitness. One workout a day is going to be somewhere probably 30, 45, maybe 60 minutes of your day. But you're going to be making a food choice almost, it feels like constantly. There's constantly food being put in front of you, or you have to think what your next meal is. So that decision fatigue can really add up when it comes to your food choices. But when we're struggling with our health and wellness habits, I have this solution for you, which is the 4 essential routines. And we're going to expand on that and show you how to make those decisions automatic so that you are not getting fatigued by having to make those decisions. And that's where the power of being boring comes in. I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, and ultimately you're here because you want to make things easier on yourself. And honestly, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. And I definitely have heard people say, like, it's going to be boring to eat healthy or boring to do certain workouts. And we're going to talk about how, yes, certain aspects might be boring, but you know what? The results are anything but boring when you're making these really great choices in your life. And being boring is actually the secret to the feel your best formula. We often think of being boring as being a bad thing, but the older I get, the more I realize that the so-called boring parts of my life are actually where I find the most joy, that I look forward to. In today's society, it's really easy to get caught up in the latest trends and comparing ourselves to others, but figuring out what really speaks to your soul and doing that consistently is so much more enjoyable than flitting from one thing to another. Doing repetitive, i.e., boring habits over time can lead to the following: reaching personal records with your fitness, easily making food choices that are in your alignment with your goals, feeling confident in your clothes, being able to keep up with your kids and maybe your grandkids down the road, actively avoiding lifestyle-related illnesses, and ultimately feeling in control of your health and wellness. It's about feeling good about yourself. And I think back to how I felt when I gained a ton of weight after my second son was born, and I just felt awful, and that became my new normal. Feeling bad became normal to me. The main thing was I had this horrible heartburn, and it would come on every night, and it was so uncomfortable, and it was actually so noticeable that it went away as soon as I lost the first 10 pounds. And I just remember thinking, wow, that felt awful. And my life is so much more enjoyable now that I don't have to worry about not having tomato sauce or something spicy at night, because I love spicy foods. And I would indulge in the spicy foods and pay the price when I was going to bed. And sometimes we don't realize that we're living with things that are so uncomfortable that could, be taken care of and go away by just changing our healthy habits, and therefore make our day-to-day lives so much more enjoyable. And these could be things that you actually physically feel that manifest in your body, like pain or heartburn or being out of breath when you get active and sweating and just feeling like you're out of shape. Or it could be silent things like having high cholesterol, having high blood pressure, where you just don't even realize that these disease processes, because that's literally what it is, are going on in your body. And it can be really motivating to think, how would you feel if these things improved and you started feeling better? Imagine waking up every day and just feeling really good in your body, nothing to do with how skinny you are or what your body looks like, but just what it feels like. And ultimately, that's what we want our habits to produce, because if we put our habits on autopilot and make it easy, then we can feel better about ourselves and feel better in ourselves. So let's let go of the latest fads and trends and instead stick to simple solutions and do those things repeatedly. It doesn't mean eating the same exact meal every single day. Instead, what you're doing is looking for the things that you're enjoying, which is a pattern, and a pattern that you can repeat, whether you find certain foods, like I really enjoy broccoli and I eat it all the time. I'll even eat it without any salt and pepper or anything on it. I'll eat it raw. I'll eat it dipped in ranch dressing. I just really enjoy it. And you can take those foundational recipes and ingredients and change things up a little. And as much as I love trying new recipes, you guys know I love to cook, I love food, I really do rely on those basics, those foods that I know I enjoy, and it's pretty brainless for me to make them. If I just have to microwave a sweet potato or cook up some burgers, I know it's a really simple, healthy meal that I can get on the table in 15, 20 minutes, and I don't have to overthink things. So it may sound boring, but it's basically know what you like and repeat it and find new ways of just tweaking things a little bit so it doesn't get to a point where you don't enjoy it anymore. And you can think the same thing with your workouts and all different aspects of your life. Just look for those patterns that you enjoy and think, is there there's some small changes that I could make, so that does change things up a little bit, but I'm still sticking to that foundational pattern and habit that I know works really, really well for me. And if I had to guess, I would say that right now you already stick to a lot of the same patterns in your life. I bet you buy a lot of the same groceries each week. I bet you order a lot of the same meals at your favorite restaurants. It really is just about maybe swapping out some of those things that you're already doing and just leveling up those choices in a very mindful way and replacing those old choices with some new choices that are now going to be your go-to option when you're deciding what you're going to order or what groceries you're going to buy, and just making those new things more of a habit like your old choices were, if that makes sense. So this is really important, especially with your workouts if you want to build muscle. I know it can be exciting to do like fancy workouts with all these like combination movements and change things up all the time. But the reality is, if you want to build muscle, you do have to do repetitive movements over and over again, challenging yourself with either heavier weights or more repetitions so that you can build that muscle. And it can feel a little bit repetitive, but what I like to do is during my workouts, I just pop in a podcast or listen to an audiobook, and I multitask, and it's really, really easy to do that workout because I already know the movements. I'm not learning something new. And at the same time, I can enjoy listening to that podcast or book. And I know I'm making myself stronger, even if I'm not doing some fancy new workout. And being active, just getting those steps in. It doesn't sound exciting to go for walks or maybe take extra laps around your office building or whatever way you're getting those steps in. It doesn't sound glamorous or very exciting, but those foundational habits are really the key to creating those long-term health goals and doing what your body really needs. It doesn't have to be fancy. And remember, your habits start with a choice, a decision. It's not about what you're doing, it's who you're deciding to be. And when you're actively choosing to be someone different, be a newer version of yourself, that is where the magic happens. You're combining that decision with the knowledge that you already have about yourself, the foods that you like, the activities that you enjoy. And I guarantee you it will never be boring. And like I said, you're probably already doing a lot of repetitive things in your life. And it's time to just be a little bit more mindful about where those current habits are where are they going to lead? If you continue doing all those same habits that you have right now, over time, you're going to have that compound effect. What direction are they taking you in? And is that the direction you want to go? And save the exciting and the new for other parts of your life. It's okay to be boring when it comes to your health and wellness, because that means you're being really consistent. And the more consistent you are, the more results you're going to get. And that's where that confidence really builds. And it's not about the physical results. It's that act of keeping that promise to yourself, saying to yourself, I'm worth it. And these are the changes I'm going to make. And then being able to look back and see that you did it. So I hope that you enjoyed learning about the power of being boring, and I'd love to hear from you. What are some boring things that you do that really add up and make your life really incredible? And I hope that you enjoyed thinking about this, because on this podcast, we're always aiming to look at things a little bit differently and get really realistic about what it takes to truly live a healthy life on the inside and out. Okay, that's it for today's episode, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.